He went on to write a letter to all of the candidates telling them that they should repudiate Trump's comments. He started that movement right here. So the question now is, will Trump's comments come back to haunt him? Guy Benson is the senior editor at townhall.com. And Guy, what do you think? I mean, what should the GOP be doing right now strategically to deal with the Donald?
Oh, it's a tough question because he's this larger-than-life character. He's, of course, a multiple-time Hillary Clinton donor, so I think it's probably fair to say that he's not representative of the mainstream Republican Party on a whole host of issues. But it's an interesting question when it comes to the immigration dilemma that we're facing in America, because the way Donald Trump cast his remarks and the way he went about making those comments, I think, were really ugly and unfortunate, where he was painting with a very, very broad brush in a way that I think is just totally inaccurate. But there is a problem with illegal immigrants, some of whom have been deported multiple times, creating and causing and committing violent crime in this country. The way Donald Trump went about talking about it typically was not nuanced in any way. And so I think that Governor Pataki and Governor Bush are right to really back away from what Trump and how Trump said what he said. All
right, Leslie Marshall, she's joining us as well. She's a liberal radio talk show host. Leslie, always good to see you. We hear about Donald Trump and how the Republicans should be responding. We've seen a number of them, the majority of them, come out and say they do not approve of his commentary. Is that the right tactic here for them to be taken?
I think it is the right tactic because, one, even though I'm a Democrat, I do believe and agree with Jeb Bush and hell is not frozen over, that the Republican Party is not about this. Secondly, it's politically unwise to attack the fastest growing population, especially the fastest growing voter population who had so much influence in the last couple of elections. And then thirdly, it's just not true. Over 50% of rapists in this country are white males, most of which overwhelmingly are American born. In addition to that, he said immigrants and Latino immigrants. That's a very racially charged generalization with that broad sweep of that paintbrush, and that is very unwise. I do agree also with Jeb Bush that he wanted the attention, and that's what he's got.
You know, nonetheless, Guy, I think one of the things that Trump is trying to get at, the heart of the issue here, happens to be our borders and the lack of security on our borders. And as a country, don't we need to be doing more for that? Isn't that part of the Republican platform? And do some of these candidates run a sort of a dangerous line if they're out there saying, no, you know, we totally disagree with him, but yet then try and talk tough on borders?
Yeah, I think that's true to some extent, but I don't think that they're not mutually exclusive, right? You can talk about the border, you can talk about illegal immigration, you can address these questions in a serious way without going the way that Trump did down this path, saying that a lot of these Mexican immigrants are rapists and murderers and violent criminals and that sort of thing, and then adding at the very end, I'm sure some of them are nice people, right? That is exactly the wrong way to go about talking about issues, because you know, political calculus requires you to address tough questions and tough truths while also managing the way that you talk about things and issues and people. You're talking about human beings here. That's the core of what Trump got wrong.
Very important point, Guy. I mean, when you think about someone being presidential, someone that would be the president of the United States, they've got to sound inclusive because we're all here and we're all in America. Leslie, to that end, you've got Ted Cruz and Rick Santorum out there defending Trump, standing by Trump. Is that going to cost them? Let's listen to Ted Cruz here.
I salute Donald Trump for focusing on the need to address illegal immigration. The Washington cartel doesn't want to address that. He has a colorful way of speaking. It's not the way I speak, but I'm not going to engage in the media's game of throwing rocks and attacking other Republicans. I'm just not going to do it.
Is Ted Cruz dangerous for the party, Leslie?
I think Ted Cruz sits along with Donald Trump and many others in the past and the present who still are questioning whether or not the president was born in the United States with that birther movement. And I don't think it helps them, quite frankly. It doesn't help them with the moderates, the centrists, who are going to be key, I believe, to the next election in 2016. And it certainly doesn't help them with Democrats who might feel that Bernie Sanders is too far left and they don't want another Clinton or another Bush. And I don't even think it helps within his own Tea Party or libertarian group. And I understand why he's saying what he's saying, but we have to look at facts. And facts are we don't have the money for the fence along the entire border. Whoever is president has a Congress to deal with. And you have to deal with the facts. You can't just say things for sensationalistic purposes. And I think that's what Donald Trump did. And I think Ted Cruz is foolish to align himself with that. And Rick Santorum as well. Shame on him. Yeah, I would think he'd be a more inclusive kind of guy with his morality.
Do you think maybe they're spending a little too much time looking at those polls a little enviously? I mean, Guy Benson, incredible how Trump has performed thus far. You look at him second nationally in our Fox News poll, second there in New Hampshire. Is that stuff going to last? At some point when people get to the voting booths, do they start to have a change of heart?
Yeah, it's not going to last because for a variety of reasons. One of the appeals that Donald Trump does have is that he is not afraid to take on the political class with the sort of sneering contempt that a lot of voters feel for the political class. That being said, can we just dispense with this fiction that Donald Trump is a conservative or a Republican? This is someone who donated multiple times to Hillary Clinton, who is for socialized health care, who is for abortion rights, who is for gun control, who is for tax increases. The list goes on and on. Donald Trump is whatever Donald Trump needs to be in the given moment for Donald Trump. Right now, it's a Republican. Who knows what it'll be tomorrow? And when voters, Republican voters, find out what Donald Trump has done and said through the years, if he wants to pretend to be a serious candidate, I think there are going to be some eyes open in the coming weeks and months.
It's interesting because you point this out, and yet that's the exact opposite of the persona that he is showing off to everyone. He's making people think that, you know, he really is true blue and that he is true to his ideals, and this is why he's willing to absolutely say anything. Anyway, interesting fluctuation on some of those issues. Guy and Leslie, good to have you guys here. Thank you for all your analysis. Still to come.